And now, after years of planning, sweating, and going broke, here is the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
I'll alert the media.
Why they would give this man a podcast is anyone's guess.
Then there is what could only be a bizarre coincidence or something else.
Welcome to the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, sir.
Country music and fine moonshine. Finally, a podcast that lets it all hang out.
Let's level with America.
Got your boots? Ready for some whiskey?
These boots are made for walking.
One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you.
And now, the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
Hey everyone, Jim here, Boots and Whiskey Podcast. Welcome to another episode of the show. We have Adam Chaffins here today. We had a I don't want to say a busy weekend, but Saturday we got invited out to the big Thomas Rush show at Fenway. We'll get to that at the end. I just wanted to make mention of it. Hell of a time. But we have Adam here. Adam is a great dude. His music's absolutely fantastic. It's like it's recognizable. It's homey. It's very good. What he's doing. I love this dude's story. He's a cool guy. I apologize it's taken this long, Adam, to get out. You'll start to notice a trend here if you listen to this show on a on a regular basis. What we do is we do like clumps of episodes, where we'll record a bunch of episodes in a couple of weeks' time, and then it takes us a while to get them up, unless it's something pressing and needs to come out right away. But yeah, so I apologize for all that. This is what happens. What else? I'm exhausted. You know, it's Monday when I'm recording this, but this will come out. You'll see this on Tuesday. Just tired. We had a great weekend. It was a good time. And that's that. I don't think there's anything crazy coming up. Really, just keep checking the socials and all that. We still are up for a Jersey Music Award. I don't know when the voting for that is going to start, but when it does, we'd appreciate a vote. That's that. So thanks for tuning in today. Adam Chaffins is here. Like I said, great dude, enjoyable conversation. We'll see you on the flip side, guys. Cheers. No, the way this show works is I expect some sort of
malfunction.
Right,
yeah.
At some point.
That's how it goes with the interwebs broadcast these days, it seems.
It sure is. It sure is.
Awesome.
So like I was saying, your sound is incredible. Like it's got everything I love wrapped into it.
Oh, thanks, man. That means a lot. Yeah. Cheers.
So how did you start this journey? Like where did you have you always been playing music, or is this something that's...
Yeah, music's kind of run deep for me. I started, it's the farthest memory that I have is making music. I've just been doing it for so long. Even in starting in school and stuff, playing music. I had a band when I was like 11, but I grew up just kind of fascinated with it and fascinated with the radio, and because that was the only real outreach of music I had, and buying cassette tapes and CDs when those became available. Just absorbing and getting as much music as I possibly could from whatever outlet, and trying to just jump into everything head first was it's my earliest memory is wanting to be a musician or being around musicians.
Yeah. Now, so where did you grow up?
I grew up in East Kentucky.
Okay.
Far east, this little town called Louisa in Lawrence County, Kentucky.
So like closer to like West Virginia, like that area?
Literally, the joke is you can throw a rock to West Virginia from my hometown, just downtown, across the river. Yeah, it's real close. And
nice.
Southern West Virginia, Southern Ohio, the tri-state kind of region is really, as much as I'm from East Kentucky, like I spent a lot of time in West Virginia and Southern Ohio as well, kind of growing up, because that's where stuff was compared to where we lived.
Right. Now when you're growing up, right, what kind of music are you gravitating to? Are you gravitating towards that, like, that Appalachian kind of sound, or are you more like rebel and
Well, I grew up off of US 23, which they call Country Music Highway.
Okay, yeah.
So like Ricky Skaggs is from my hometown, and the Judds are from around there, and Billy Ray Cyrus. Those were people kind of popping off when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So that was just the thick of it. Being from there, it was kind of everywhere. So it kind of started, definitely in '90s country land was like what I grew up really in love with. And then just whatever radio hits were on, what my mom and dad listened to, and dad listened to a lot of classic rock and like compilation discs of Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash and Merle and all the classics, as well with of some Bon Jovi and that kind of shit tossed in there.
Yeah, you gotta have that.
Yeah, so that was it until I got to middle school and being in kind of like joining the band, and had a really cool band director who played bass and guitar, and he liked stuff that wasn't wind band music too, and that was kind of the segue into more bluegrass music and jazz, and clearly I grew up going to Free Will Baptist Church every Sunday, so there's tons of gospel influence, which was like early soul music for me. That was my first kind of surroundings around soul music. I consider was in church.
Yeah. Now, when you were in band, right, in high school and stuff, what were you playing?
I played trumpet, unless it was a different scenario, and then I'd play bass. I played electric bass in the middle school band, and then the high school band and pep band and all that stuff. So that was like early ensemble playing for me, was that, as well as, playing in church bands and that kind of the stuff you did wherever you could find music, whether it was just what was there,
Could you pick up a trumpet now and play it?
I try to get it out. What's funny is towards the end of college, I was like, man, I'm going to move to Nashville, and I bet there's going to be a scenario where I can play horn on a track, and that just never happens. So I got my chops pretty good until I moved here and was just playing other things so much that it kind of went away. But I do try to get it out at least twice a year, and play a scale from low C to high C to prove that I can still do it. And then, I clean my horn out and then put it back in the case. I think mostly it's just, I just kind of gotten away from that sound sonically. It was just, I think you go through phases of like, I really like this kind of stuff. I don't like this kind of stuff. And maybe I'm coming out of a phase, the anti-horn phase, but I found myself in an anti-horn wormhole.
Yeah.
There's a lot more opportunities probably to get it out recording at home, and some other projects I've been producing. So I'm sure it will see the light of day sooner or later.
Yeah. So when you go to you said you wanted to be in music some sort of way, right? When you go to college, what's the backup plan then? What was the goal there?
Well, that was the thing. It was like, it seemed like the only way to get out of where I was from was to go to college.
Yeah.
And I felt like I just wanted to learn more about music before I started making my own. And I was just really obsessed with that. And I had some scholarship opportunities to go to school, and it was like, from my family's perspective, it was like, well, you're an idiot if you don't go to college with a scholarship. So I just kind of got sucked into doing that. I guess the backup plan was to be a music teacher.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I wanted to go to grad school. That grad school's as far as I made it. I got a year of that, and I was like, I'm done with this shit.
Yeah.
I just was so burnt out on it, and also just the point of it, and just feeling like it didn't seem like a very good plan B.
Sure.
It seemed like a worse. I was like, I think I'm making more money playing music right now when I first got to town than I would have had I been a music teacher.
Oh, absolutely.
And I just just jumped ship abruptly.
Yeah.
From all that.
Yeah. I wanted to be a high school history teacher for the longest time, and I started doing all those kind of classes and doing student teaching, and I was like, this is just not like, I felt like I wasn't old enough to do it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess, yeah, there's a lot of trial and error and sitting around and waiting and learning in that. And there's so many people gifted for it. I was ready to ramble.
Yeah,
I was just ready to get on the road. And at that point, I hadn't really seen much outside of Eastern Kentucky and, Myrtle Beach.
yeah,
That was kind of the only thing of the world I'd seen it to that point. So I was just ready to go. And I feel like I moved to Nashville to just jump in vans and buses with people and just be out on the road and experience life that way. So I was just so done with the classroom, and
yeah.
still am. There's no way I could go back to it.
No, yeah,
But it seems like an ancient part of my life now, going to school.
yeah. Now, for the sound that you have, right? Is this something? Is this the sound you've always had, or is this kind of like a where you've ended up?
Yeah, well, I feel like every record an artist makes should be where they ended up to that point.
That's
Um,
fair.
you know, I, I try. I think with this project and the music we've been recording lately, um, I've just not been afraid of letting each individual song let whatever influence that made that song happen come about sonically. So definitely, it's the end result of just years of trial and error and writing hundreds of songs and going through the gamut of what this is and that is, and I feel like your tastes sometimes don't catch up to your abilities.
Yeah,
And I've just tried to let that just happen. And especially co-writing is a lot easier because other people are moving at a different wavelength and a different pattern, and just like letting myself jump on other people's ships and then jumping off when need be was a big part of this process and a big part of like getting to now. So
yeah,
yeah, it took yeah, I definitely wouldn't have made this project. It's so different from my first record, but also a continuation of that as well, and just
yeah,
letting myself be more vulnerable to certain things, and making something that was fun was more of a goal for this. So I feel like my music now is more fun. I feel like there's so much dull everywhere else, and there's so much stuff that sounds the same, and maybe that's not necessarily dull. I just hear a lot of the same stuff over and
yeah,
over again, and it's just I don't see the point in just contributing to the same old stuff over and over again.
yeah.
Which living in Nashville, you see quite a bit of that. So I definitely will say that tried to put myself in a place other people aren't.
Yeah. Yeah, especially being in Nashville, where we talk about it here a lot, where how cookie cutter it is. It's like it's just a
Can
machine,
be, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Just pumping out the same kind of sound over and over and over again. But like, I mean, you also see, now where the sounds like you and the guys like you and Charles and the list goes on and on and on. Like that's becoming more popular without radio play,
yeah.
because people have so much access to everything, that, it's
It's a bizarre world when you make music that isn't the same fish that's at the fish market.
right,
When you got a new fish that's at the market, everybody's like, "Ah, this is cool, but I don't know how to market it."
right,
And it's like it's too easy to market. We're marketing this stuff. Just put it on that table with all the other fish. And it's like, well,
right,
this is not from the same part of the ocean as those fish. And I think that's the tough thing, honestly, more than anything. I truly feel like we're edging more towards a genreless world
yeah,
where we're getting back to where music is just music and everyone can have their own idioms of whatever. But we're so far away from the traditional roots of all of it. Like
right,
everything is so removed, from the way that Flatt and Scruggs lived and the way that Bill Monroe lived and the way that Hank Williams lived and all these Johnny Cash. We're so far removed from that. And everyone that has so many more influences, and those guys were influenced by a lot too. They just didn't, it wasn't as much. There wasn't as much
right,
around as there is now. So I think if you don't let some of that in, It's like you're walking around with hands over your ears, like
Yeah.
not paying attention to the pulse that is the universe and the music that comes out and what kind of triggers and is the muse for songwriters.
Yeah. Now, do you think, you know, based on what you're doing and the way, the state, I love to ask this question, but the state of country music, do you think it's lost what it is or what it was or what I don't want to say should be, but
Well, I feel like it's a it. I think country music, and I'm sure a lot of people would be like, he didn't know what he's talking about, and that's fine because they probably don't either. Um, the like country music to me is kind of more like what Americana music was 10 years ago, whereas
okay.
it's become a more open umbrella.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Americana music for the longest time was, well, if it's not this, it's that, and now country is kind of overlapping that same thing
Right.
of being like, oh, well, this is cool too, and it's like, well, is traditional country Americana? Like,
Yeah.
because it wasn't to me 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it wouldn't have been called that. But folk music is like, what the fuck is folk music now?
Right.
Either,
Right.
so it's all kind of folk music in this world. Um, I think it just gets down to like the difference in music that's made from an earnest, honest place and music that is made strategically to make money. I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And sometimes now I think there's people that are legitimately into stuff that you and I might think was strategically made to make money. That's its
Yeah.
own art form now too. And I feel like there's enough room in the water for everybody to make whatever they want to do. So I don't, if you want to do this, go right ahead. And there's music that fills up stadiums that you and I probably don't like or understand um, but other people do.
Right.
And who am I to look
Sure.
at that and say, you got it all wrong.
Right.
Sometimes there's, some artists I hear, I tell my wife this a lot. It's like, well, why does this person have so many streams? It's like, well, to me, that's probably 7 million people who have never listened to a Daryl Scott record or a Tim O'Brien record
Right.
or a Sean Camp record or these other, people that are structural to all that other music or those artists that have 7 million streams. It's just people that haven't dug that far deep, and
Right.
that's what's on the top, and it's easier to fish what's on the top, I suppose, to keep going back to my fish market reference.
No, I'm not gonna. I don't want to throw you to the wolves or anything, or put you in a spot.
I could care less at
But-
this point, man. You've been 15 years in Nashville. I've kind of seen it all, and
Yeah,
I don't mind calling a spade a spade.
and I'm with you. But like it's sometimes I've been to a few pop shows and whatnot, and I don't go to a lot of them for obvious reasons. But it's like I don't know if a lot of I'm probably gonna get shit on for this, but a lot of people that ingest that kind of music, I don't think they would get it. I don't think they would understand an artist that actually had something to say.
I mean, there is that, and there's pop music that says stuff.
Okay.
I think the hardest songs you can write are songs that are fun and actually say something. That's the hardest song to write.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to write this melancholic, woe is me ballad,
Yeah.
or woe is the world I live in. But to write that song and make people bob their head and like feel good at the same time,
Yeah.
that's the hardest song to write, and that's to me is like the key to it all. And it's fun. Beer drinking songs are fun, man. That's the kind of core of country music.
Yeah.
But you can say stuff with it too, I think. That's what the merge to me of country music is like country writing and just good songwriting kind of melding together and having the same features as it all,
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that's always been moving to Nashville. You see so many people and you're like, oh, they're all writing this kind of music. I mean, it's actually people who are really gifted at writing a lot of music, like the best songwriters. It is a sad tale how many great songs I've heard that are not in existence. Sometimes I think of songs that I know from other writers or things I've wrote with other people that are good stuff that, you know, the vessel for it, you know, for it to see the light of day is really hard to put together sometimes, or sometimes it takes time. I look an artist like Chris Stapleton, who keeps, you know, recording songs he wrote 10 plus years ago, is kind of proof of like, you know, planting that seed and watching it grow through time and letting it develop and mature and then harvesting it when it's the right moment.
Yeah.
And you see, like, Nashville is a song town more than anything, and that's why I moved here. There's great music towns everywhere, but this is the ultimate music town, and no one else can tell me otherwise.
Right. Yeah. You know, I think it's on Prime. There's a documentary about like the Nashville songwriter, right?
Yeah.
And they go into, you know, everything, you know, even outside of country music, where it's like, you know, there are songwriters in town that write pop songs and, you know,
Tons
this, that,
that
and the other
do
thing,
all.
right? And
Do
it's like,
all of it.
you know, I think people on the outside of the music world, like, don't necessarily see that or understand it at least.
Yeah, I mean, my dad dug coal for a living, and I dig songs. It's a much
Right.
easier way of life, and I'm thankful for that. Every day I go to Nashville and write a song with someone, or someone comes to my house, and it's like, what am I supposed to be doing today? It's like, this is what I'm supposed to do today. This is my job, and
Right.
that's a blessing. And yeah, I think I tried to put down in songwriting. You can put up, you know, you can put up these bumpers and buffers to, like, I can only write in this tunnel, and sometimes you have to do that, and you need to do it for whatever the thing is. But for me, like, the Trailer Trash project wouldn't have happened had I not just let those barriers down and try to just find it all from everywhere, and really just create something that was more adjacent to the music I truly like. I always feel like there's bad music and there's good music, and then there's just shit you really want to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like, there's a difference. Like, there's tons of stuff that's great, but I don't necessarily want to listen to it as much as this other great stuff, because that's just me personally. And I think, you know, making music that people really want to listen to is kind of different sometimes than just trying to make good music. And that goes in with writing the type of songs that are all the things all at once. I think it really comes down to that when you're making a cool project. Shoot. Hey there.
Yeah.
Man, it must be the weather.
Yeah. Oh no, probably.
Dang. And we got that. We live out in the country, but we got that high dollar internet, and I'm going to be writing a nasty email tomorrow morning. Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
So what were we talking about? Because you cut off right where you were talking about.
Yeah, I was in a tangent, and I looked down, and the world had frozen. I think we were just talking about writing songs and being open-minded, and you know, letting things kind of happen. And, you know, writing songs with someone else, like, you got to let your ego be at bay. You got to protect. Sometimes you got to just show up and be like, well, we're not going to get there today. But I think, you know, putting your sword down and letting it all happen, and letting what happens happen when you're writing a song gets you somewhere else. And it might be uncomfortable at first, but I've kind of learned to just let that go. And you know, that's what led to this EP. What's what led to Trailer Trash, a song like that, and all the other songs on it is just like having a look at myself, like, what's the most fun to play. I mean, my first record, you know, those songs, and that whole project is very near and dear to me, but it's a heavy thing to play live. It's just wasn't as fun to have to just play that. I just felt like those songs and that part of my life was there, and I was here, and just wanted to have music that kind of reflected now and that I enjoy play, and something that can just spread cheer and uplifting emotional promise to people, while maybe, trying to send a message at the same time.
Yeah. Now, do you find so when you say that, will are there certain songs you won't play?
Like previously,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like there's songs I don't kind of resonate with as much, or you know aren't designed as much. But I've also kind of gotten into like readapting those songs for
Okay. Yeah.
whatever the band setup is or happens to be then. And I've found a lot of joy in that and rediscovering that stuff as well.
All right. Because I know, like a guy like Tyler Childers, right? He's like infamous for not playing some of the older stuff for whatever fucking reason, right? And as a consumer, or like when you go to see that person and you want to see those songs, do you have fans that are like, dude, why don't you play these songs anymore?
Yeah, I mean, there's people that love stuff, but I also, I don't, I don't, I don't think enough people have probably heard that stuff yet to feel
Okay.
shorted.
All right. Well, because
you
I
know,
guess that was the question where it's like, as an artist, songwriter, whatever, like, when you get to a point where you're playing out shows and you have fans and people paying attention and shit, like where's the line of like, I don't want to play those songs anymore, but I have to. You know what I mean? Or
oh yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I suppose, you know, if I had a hit radio song, up to this point, and maybe I despised it, that would be something. But also, I feel like, um, there's songs I still play that I know people like that I enjoy playing every time, knowing that. And
yeah,
there's a whole thing. Every time you play a song, you just get better at it. And I think sharing that experience with a new audience who hadn't seen the journey, it's like, oh wow, that was great for whatever reason. It's like, it took a lot of developing and building. It's
yeah,
like, it's so funny when I listen to songs on a record. It's like, and I like to record fast. I like to get it all done quick and just roll with it. And then nowadays you can just second guess anything over and over again and change a track completely if you want. But I like to just track everything when the band's on the floor as fast as possible and get all those ideas out. And I think that's a whole part of the process too, is just letting it all like lightning kind of come out. And then when those songs kind of keep growing and there's a folklore and, of everything that goes over time, and you just let those songs kind of happen. And I do think there's a period where, it behooves you to represent those songs as closer to the recording as possible. But then beyond that, it's like, it's fair game. It's, you know,
now
out
doing
in the
it
world.
that way, how do you find that you get a better result, like for your stuff, rather than tinkering with it and making sure it's
Well,
perfect
I just think
before
you can overthink everything, and at some point, you just got to be confident with your skill sets and like what you got,
yeah,
and when you're working with other people who are the same, it's like you should be able to just make it happen. And I mean, it's the same thing with writing a song. Like, you can tinker at songs forever too, which I do, but also those initial ideas, whatever makes up a chorus, hit you all at once most of the time.
yeah,
All those little nuggets of stuff kind of came at one fell swoop. So I think it's also good not to second guess the guitar part on a track you're recording, because whatever comes out then is what the juice was flowing to make happen.
right,
Because you can set and re-record and re-record and re-record, and at some point you just gotta be like, hey man, this ship's either going to sink or it ain't, or
right,
sail or sink, and you just got to let it float.
yeah,
And I think getting it done fast just puts all that stuff at ease. And within 4 times of running song, I think after 3 or 4 times of running through something, if it ain't there, it probably ain't going to be there.
yeah.
Or you probably need to take a break, do something else, and come back and see if it comes back on a time or two. But beyond that, it's just beating a dead horse, as they
Yeah.
say.
Now, how quickly can you write a song?
I mean, 15 minutes to 2 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, like I think that's kind of the time cycle for me.
Yeah.
You know, there's people, my wife and I write together a lot, and there's people we can write 2 songs in 2 hours with, or 3 songs in 2 hours, or, you know, 1 song in 20 minutes, or you can take 4 hours and write a song and beat it to death, and then it happens. I think writing a song is like creating a puzzle for yourself. Like
Sure.
the budding of a song is this puzzle, and then you're just trying to figure out the puzzle as best as possible, you know, and you'll tell at the end. You can tell at the end if you solved it, or if it's like, I don't know if you necessarily connected all the dots on this guy, you
Right.
know. So
Not
that's
sure if that piece actually fits there or not.
yeah, like you'll figure it out at the end. And I mean, this it's also subjective, man. Some things can hit you a certain way. It's like there's certain songs you hear in certain atmospheres or certain environments that just spark different.
Yeah.
And the more you write songs, the more comfortable you get with songs, and the more vulnerable you get with songs as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, so when you are writing and doing that sort of thing, and when you're writing for either somebody else or somebody else is with you, do you take everything in with you? Like if you're working on something, do you that you
Yeah,
really have a passion for, and you're like, this is gonna be my song. Do you even bring it to the table, or do you just
yeah. There's, you know, I think you learn the people that are your people for that, and sometimes something that you wouldn't have considered to be something maybe you would do ends up being something you would do. Um, but yeah, I mean, man, there's so many ways to do it. I don't really have. That's what's so difficult. It'd probably be easier if I was just like, I just do it this way. But
right?
you know, sometimes it's a little nugget, sometimes it's a musical idea, sometimes it's just a phrase, sometimes it's half a song, sometimes it's mostly a whole song that needs another verse or a rewritten verse, or the chorus ain't that great.
Yeah,
And that's why you bring it to somebody else, like, hey, I'm done kicking this thing around, but maybe you got a better coat of paint we can put on it. Um, so there's, I think, yeah, after years of doing it, you just get to that point where, you know, I just try to let the sun shine wherever it wants to.
right, right. Now, do you have songs that you've written and gotten all together and they're polished, and you go through them a few times and you're like, no, not doing this one anymore. Like, fuck it.
Oh yeah, all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, totally. And man, you just, you know, when you start really writing songs and um yeah, you start stacking them up, but it's a lot easier to let a thing go, or like I said, you know, let it keep harvesting under the incubation light while the rest of the world catches up to it. Some
Right.
songs aren't ready for the world yet.
Now, do you ever take some of those not ready for the world songs and play them out live and see what kind of reaction you get?
Yeah, totally. I've been doing that a lot lately. I've actually got kind of a little bit more music to add to come out down the line, and it's been fun to play those songs adjacent to the ones that we've just released,
Yeah.
and see the reactions to that. So that's a big part of the process too.
Yeah. Now, with that, do you find that you have a song that you personally are unsure of, and then play it for an audience, and then but they're sure of it, and it changes your mind about it?
Yeah, and I think that's, to me, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Where I try to make it like, I don't know if this is something. Let's see how they react, or maybe it's like, maybe I think too much of this, and I need to see if
Right.
other people
Right.
think the same. Usually, it's that. Um, uh, yeah, it's, you know, it's always learning experience, you know, and until you've recorded it, it's an open world. I mean, there's the songs on this EP I've played so many different ways live until, you know, Living to My Dying Day had so many different, that song got demoed twice. You know, the first time it was pitched to like some very, you know, major artists, but even when that happened, it was flattering when someone's like, man, we got to pitch this song to such and such, and we need to record it now. And you're like, cool. And then you do it. And the whole time you're like, I ain't going to change this because it didn't work if I do. But there were, you know, I think after, it's like, I don't know if anybody else is going to feel it the same way. And it's
Right.
like, I don't think it changes that the message is not valid, but sometimes it takes someone to put that idea out first for other people. Tyler's a great example. You know, there's a lot of people cover his songs, and it's because they've heard him do them
Right.
that they're like, this is great. But, you know, had you just heard it a different way or someone else doing it, you might not have wanted to put your own stamp on it.
Right.
And, you know, there's great Dylan's that way, the Beatles, all those great songs that get covered and covered that are evergreen songs of the world were ones that people heard a certain way and thought of universally.
Right. Right. Yeah. You know, I always find, you know, I talk about covers all the time and artists doing cover songs. And sometimes, actually, a lot of the time, it goes up my ass sideways. And only because, like, if I'm going to see a show with a headliner that I know, like, their catalog front to back, you know, whatever, like,
Yeah.
I want to hear those original songs, right?
Right.
But, like, the more I think about it, it's like, all right, so every now and again, a cover is needed, right? Where it's, you
They
need
can really,
to throw,
they can
you need
pull
to
a
throw
whole
the
audience
a nugget.
together. They can pull
Right.
the audience together for your shit too, or for
Right.
stuff they haven't heard.
Right.
And it's like people also, it's a frame of reference of like, where are you coming from? And then
Right.
you hear a cover or you hear a way that they do a cover, and it puts a lot more context on that person, especially if they're not, you know, heard of as much or
Right.
whatever. But, yeah, I mean, there's so many great songs out there. Sometimes we don't need more, you know,
Right.
and sometimes it's a message that, you know, everyone's heard one way and a different artist can say it another. And someone might not have liked the song a certain way, but they're going to love it when they hear such and such do it a certain
Right.
way. So, I mean, yeah, it's you know, you don't want to be a karaoke band
Right.
or a wedding cover band. And those are fun gigs for that stuff too. People want that when they want it. But yeah, if you're going to see an artist do something, it needs to kind of flow with the rest of the art, right?
Do you have songs that you like to cover and like put your
Oh
own spin on?
yeah, totally. I mean, lately I've been doing a kind of a more funky version of Bubba Shot the Jukebox.
Okay.
Which an infamous Mark Chestnut hit, but was originally written by Dennis Lindy.
Yeah.
And it was one of Dennis's masterpieces. And I actually have
one of the many Lindyville tunes.
Exactly. I have I don't know if you've heard any of his original demos, but I have a Dropbox file full of about 60 original Dennis Lindy demos, and one of them is Bubba Shot the Jukebox, and it is nothing like the Mark Chestnut version.
Really?
It is this funky jam thing, and they cut out certain parts. It makes sense why they did it, but I just love the demo so much, and I love Mark Chestnut, and I love that record. But that just brought a whole new light, and it's like you can hear especially in 2025. I feel like that adaptation of it pulls a bunch of people together.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun, and I like doing stuff like that more. And I mean, one of my most successful songs probably is a cover I did of a Keith Whitley song. It's not a song Keith wrote, but it's just my version of a Keith Whitley song that I did live with a string section, and that's probably was the first song that people really kind of maybe did a second take of my music was because of that.
Now, because you brought it up, I've become a huge Keith Whitley guy over the last several months. And because you're bringing it up, I got to ask you, right? If Keith doesn't pass away, is he the king of country music?
I mean, it's interesting. That is interesting. He surely could have been a contender.
Yeah.
It's like Keith's music is so specific too, and there's so much lonesome in his music.
Yeah.
There's more lonesome in his music than George Strait and Alan Jackson, which to me it's like splitting hairs. Those are, if there's a king of country music, I don't know how you don't like Alan Jackson. To me is as king of country music as anybody.
Yeah.
As a songwriter, I mean, he's got the hits. One time I did a flight from New York to I think Texas, listening to a playlist of number ones from Alan, and there were still like songs when I landed on the
Damn.
playlist. So, and like he wrote a bunch of those himself
Yeah.
too. Like those early songs, like what got him off the ground was his writing. You
Yeah.
know, Barry Coburn heard um uh uh um Chasing That Neon Rainbow
Yeah.
and was like, holy crap, like, you know, you wrote this? So to me it's like they probably filled a void where Whitley left, you
Yeah.
know, but also he inspired all that,
It's true.
you know.
That's true.
So I mean, yeah, gosh, it's we'll never know. Like
Yeah, that's true.
that's why it's so cool. It's like we just have the recordings we have and we can listen to them over and over again. There's this mystery that goes with it that we're also as in love with as we are the music and the
Right.
person, you know.
Right. And it begs the other question, right? Where it's like, you look at everything in hindsight, right? Where it's like we have a small amount of stuff we can go back to over and over again and like imagine what it would have been or could have been, right? And
Yeah.
who knows, it might not have been at all. You know,
There's that too. Yeah, man.
It's
We never got clean Keith.
that's right.
We never, and that's
Right.
the only way we would have ever heard anything
That's true.
else. And
That's
we
true.
never, that never existed.
But I love the fact that we talk about these guys and these girls, and you know, outside of the country music world and the music world in general, like everybody, I'm sure, has a thought that it's like, oh well, George Strait writes all of these songs and these number one hits and all that shit. When there's actually a songwriter behind almost every, it's like Dean Dillon.
You nailed
May
it.
be one of the greatest of all time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a writer and then there's the artist and
Right.
there's the vessel for the song. And as artist writers that, there's a lot of us here that live in Nashville that are just constantly writing for everything. And, there's major artists out now who have co-writes on other major artists or lesser artist songs that you might not know about.
Right.
And that was because they either were trying to write it for them and usually that's the case and someone else on it picks it up or another artist writes it, so there's all those scenarios. And that was such a common thing back in the day. We were watching that Bob Dylan documentary last night. So all that kind of stuff's fresh in my head, but it was just a common thing to just cover other people's songs. That's a big thing for Willie Nelson,
Right.
was having songs that Fair and Young wanted to sing that you never would have heard. And Willie made them hits after the fact, but it was, stuff like that. It kind of all works. That's also just goes back to having an open mind as an artist and not being too proud and of yourself or think too much of what you do, because we're all, it's all for an audience. It's for yourself, but to keep doing it all the time, it has to resonate with somebody.
Yeah.
And if you're not really resonating with someone, then it's what are you doing?
Now, was that hard though? Right? Like as a songwriter, like if you have this song and you really want it to do something, right, and somebody else takes it and does something with it, like is there a level of ego of like, son of a bitch, that's my song, but so and so made it a hit?
I mean, that happens. I guess you hear tales of that. And I know some people, not necessarily in country music or that live here, but I've worked with artists who that has happened to, and they never could get over it, even if
Yeah.
it made them millionaires. They just never could get over it. To me, it would be like anyone listening to the sound of my voice, you're welcome to record the songs off of my record, and I hope you make them big hits. Like at this point in the game, I want the songs live on more than the artist, and
that's true.
Good ones do. I mean, there's a bunch of people who probably know multiple Dean Dillon songs, but don't
know who Dean Dillon is.
Dean Dillon.
Right. Right. It's kind of like, going back to Willie, like, everybody knows Crazy because of Patsy. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
no, nobody knows that it. I don't want to say nobody, but the majority of the public doesn't even realize it's a Willie Nelson song.
Or, I mean, Help Me Make It Through the Night, I think is one of the best country songs, and everyone thinks other versions of it are the original versions when,
Right.
Christofferson wrote it.
But Tennessee Whiskey's the same way.
Exactly, yeah. And that song sounds like ancient song for whatever reason that's been done by so many artists.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, exactly. That's a perfect, speaking of Dean, a perfect example of, no one knowing the source, but also like, who are we to care?
Right,
Or,
right. That's true too.
like, if like it, at some point it's like life just keeps living, and the song, we create it for people to have in their head, and you live on through the melodies.
So we've talked a lot about, some of the greats, and I don't actually get to have this conversation with most people because it's never, and not in a bad way, but it's never been in depth like this where we talk about the songwriting and the singers and the vessels and all that. But like, with the conversation being what it's been, who would be on your, the argument always is who's on the Mount Rushmore of country music?
Like writers,
artists.
Oh man, I don't know. I have too many influences
Right.
to put everybody on a hill. But I mean, clearly, uh, Hank Williams, and I feel like Willie Nelson had such a epic impact as well, on music, and Loretta Lynn.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's one who doesn't get enough credit for like really creating a whole subgenre. She's as part of the framework of country music as anybody has been. So those people are up there. I mean, Cash is up there for me. John Hartford is a was a great songwriter that contributed a lot to the more mainstream things, and also had this kind of whole sideshow thing happening with it. Man, there's just so many folks I could just sit here and talk and talk and talk. I hate to discount anyone, but those people are kind of at the top of the list for me. Of like, okay, I can never get tired of listening to a Willie Nelson record. It's like it's the Bible. It's the country music Bible to me.
It really is.
And it's like you go through the eras of music, and like, I mean, Alan is one of my absolute favorites from the modern more modern era, which to kids now he's classic country, right? But I think that's what makes him so country, is that I love Alan and Keith, who produced those records, Keith Siegel. Like, you can listen to old Alan and new Alan because he's still making great records, and they live on the same playlist. They live sonically, and they sound so timeless,
right? And
it's really hard to make timeless records. And that, to me, music that is timeless is like Rushmore status, and that's like Stapleton's music's the same way. Like, it's going to be timeless music. Like, we're already, those records came out 10 years ago and we're still singing them,
Right. You think about Stapleton, and, that first record he came out with, Traveler. Like, I remember when that came out, and that's one of those albums that there was no song you wanted to skip.
Yeah.
Like, you could put it on and listen to it front to back, and
that's the good stuff, man.
Yeah.
When it's undeniable, even if you're like, I don't necessarily want to listen to this song, but you're like, it's a great song.
Right.
That's the trick of all of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
I'm not wearing boots, but I am drinking whiskey.
Yeah, so. Well, I don't have my boots on or my whiskey in hand because it's been a rough few weeks drinking. So.
Okay.
But
Recovery Monday. I've been under the weather up until the last little bit. So today, a whiskey sounded good, and I was like, I'm doing a whiskey podcast.
What is your whiskey of choice?
Well, this happens.
We used to do a segment. We used to do that segment where it was like, "What are your boots? What are your whiskey?" And then it got to be too fucking Mickey Mouse for me, so I stopped asking.
It gets a little, like, what's your corporate sponsor?
Right.
Maker's Mark and
Right, right.
sure. Um, this is actually a single barrel Buffalo Trace
All right.
that was I really like it. The single barrel, the reserve bottles that you could like, there's a here I live outside of Nashville, and there's a great little liquor store that has prize bourbon drops, and I mean they'll have good stuff. You can get Elmer tea and some really cool things, but when their private selection for Buffalo Trace comes out, I'm always, because it's just a few steps below. Um, you know, it's the Pappy Van Winkle family
Right.
of bourbon. So the Buffalo Trace stuff has that same distinct taste, and it's just so smooth. Like this is a really good. I've savored this bottle I've had for a year and a half, and I have my neighbor is a bourbon aficionado, and if I sometimes I'll get to that bourbon drop, or I'll have something more that he wants, and he's got a deeper collection than I do. And I just, went through and did a nice trade on a couple bottles of this single barrel Buffalo Trace. So I'm in business for a little bit, but
Nice.
It's a good casual sipper for sure.
Yeah, I've never had anything bad come out of Buffalo Trace. I got invited to be a Tennessee Squire, so I have that. But just it's cool. It's
What's a Tennessee Squire? I don't know about this.
Oh, all right. So to be a Tennessee Squire, you have to be invited, and it's like I own a parcel of land at the JD Distillery.
Oh, so it's a Jack Daniels.
Yeah, it's a Jack Daniels thing. Like a Jack's not my favorite, but it's like it's what you do to get into the whiskey world. I think, it's like the Budweiser of whiskey.
Yeah, to me that's Maker's Mark.
Really?
That's the bottom of it starts there.
Okay.
I think that's where it starts. And maybe I still think Evan Williams is a fine bourbon. The Evan Williams Bottle and Bond is one of the best. I don't even, what are those, $15, $16 bottle of bourbon. It used to be like $9 when I was in college, but I'm sure it's about $15 now. Those are good whiskeys, but yeah, I don't know. Once you start drinking good shit, it's tough to like.
It is,
and I don't try to drink near as much as I used to, so I'm not looking for an economical whiskey at this point in my life. It's just if I'm going to drink it, it's going to be good. That's where I'm kind of at with it.
Like I've really gotten into ryes. Like I like our good
I love
rye.
Yeah,
like
Have you had I think Wild Turkey makes a rye.
Do they?
Actually pretty awesome.
Really?
Yeah, they make a rye.
I'll have to look.
I'm pretty sure it's the rye whiskey that they make. There's another new distillery. There's an old distillery that's new. It's called Green River, and they're out of Owensboro, Kentucky. And I'm a big fan of their stuff. They're very not a high price bottle that you can get, and it's really good stuff. And they have some more aged stuff as well, but they're a budding company that's on the rise back, and I recommend.
Yeah, they're a distillery we've worked with in the past and are good friends with. They're out of Vail, Colorado. They're called 10th Mountain Whiskey Company, and they have a rye that is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I've had some good Colorado whiskey.
Yeah. Like it's almost surprising.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's a different climate out there as well, and it does its own different thing. But I mean, when you visit Kentucky, and especially the rolling hills, central Kentucky, where they make all that stuff, especially this time of year, and you get around the atmosphere and the climate, and you can feel that moist in the air, and you're like, this is why the whiskey tastes good. Like it really goes hand in hand with the climate there, and I think that's a secret to why. Same reason why good Scotch is good Scotch, because of where they make it in Scotland. You can taste the sea. It's like you can taste the mountain, the rolling hill dew in Kentucky stuff.
Now, growing up in Kentucky and all that, like, is there like a level of competition when it comes to bourbon, and whose is better and why?
Yeah, yeah. I think more than that, it's just more like Kentucky whiskey is better than all the other. Like bourbon has to be made in Kentucky.
Right.
Everything else is just sour mash whiskey, and
Right.
God
Right.
love them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everybody's got their own thing, their own. I live by this school, and a big one is like different distillers, master distillers that have the different variations of stuff. Um, Whereas Buffalo Trace, and then you got Baker's and Woodford and all those different you know variations of it. It's like I definitely feel like I'm more of in the Buffalo Trace
Yeah.
camp of whiskey and their lineage. Big
Yeah.
fan of that.
And I am too. And like people talk about Woodford all the time, and like that's one I just could never get into.
I'll drink Woodford. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna name the ones I don't like because to each their own.
Right.
But there are some that are popular that I just like. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't mind a Woodford Reserve. That
Yeah.
if I see that, if I'm traveling outside of the country and I see the Makers or Woodford on the shelf, it's like it's a cool feeling to be like, man, that thing traveled about the same distance as I did,
Right.
to get here. So that I always think those are cool things.
Yeah. That is cool. And it's well, now that you've brought it up, now what are your boots? Because
My boots.
we haven't done this in a while.
I
So
mean, honestly, uh, I'm into the Tacovas.
yeah.
I've got so many Tacova boots. I've had some resold multiple times. They're just the most comfortable boot. I feel great walking around in them, and traveling. They're just a good. I wear a size 14 boot, so that takes up half a fucking suitcase most of the time.
Yeah.
And having a boot like some of their, the Dean, I think it's like the zip boot. I think that's what it's called. Um, Whichever one that has the half zip is such a great suitcase backpack boot. Um, so I'm a big fan of that stuff. Can't
Yeah.
say I diss it at this point in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. So for what you're doing and your music and all that, what do you got? What's on the horizon? What's the rest of the year look like? Whether it's touring or
Man, there's some shows I'm on hold for, some support slots that I hope kind of come in throughout the summer. So we'll see about that, and some doing some more shows about to kind of announce in town with my band, and more of that. And I'm happy to say that there's more music on the way, maybe sooner than
nice.
later. So excited about that, and I feel like we're just starting to tell the trailer trash story, and it's great talking to folks like you and people that are just getting into the music. It's a good sign of like, all right, it's starting to resonate. And, I think just letting things out in doses, everyone seems to like things in short doses, and I do myself. So, we're just slowly, there's a bigger story to tell, and we're just starting to tell it. So excited to keep the story going.
Yeah. Well, tell everybody how they can keep the story going and how to follow
Man,
you and all
yeah,
that stuff.
I'm on we're posting on the socials all the time, on Instagram at Adam Chaffins, and TikTok and Facebook, and you get a YouTube channel with a bunch of new music videos. There's a great music video for Trailer Trash that stars my dog and my wife, that's out there, and you can see it on CMT right now too. So whatever your favorite way is, on Spotify and stream away. You can get copy, vinyl or CD copy, on my website, adamchaffins.com. The website's a great place to find all the things, adamchaffins.com, CHAFFINS. I'm sure I'll have it written somewhere on the screen people see. But yeah, man, I'm all over the place.
Well, man, I like I said, I love what you're doing. I love what you do. It's been
Thank you,
great
man.
to get to know you and
Yeah, likewise.
shoot the shit, man. It's cool.
Well, thanks for having me on here. Sorry
Anytime.
for any technical
Yeah, dude,
glitching, but It's the
It's
world we live.
yeah, it's par for the course at this point.
Yeah, awesome, brother.
All
Thank
right,
you,
Adam.
man.
Well, we'll talk to you soon, and have a great rest of your weekend.
You too, man.
See
Happy
ya.
holidays. Cheers.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Our conversation with Adam Chaffins. Great time again, Adam. Thank you so much for being here. Real pleasure to get to know you and hear your story. It's really cool, man. Um, Now, touching on what I said earlier about Thomas Rhett this past weekend, we so grateful for TR's PR team, TR's PR team, for inviting us out and doing the thing. You know, we saw TR 2 years ago at the Garden here in Boston, and another one of those experiences where we got the invite, and it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. Got to meet him the whole 9 yards. Didn't get to meet him this time. Didn't get to say hello, but that's okay. I mean, with a scale like that, I mean, give me a break. Um, and the Costellos opened up. They were absolutely fantastic. If you haven't seen or heard them, go check them out. They're three sisters. Absolutely fantastic. And then Tucker Wetmore, who I would argue should have been the direct support for the show because Tucker was absolutely fantastic. This dude's got it going, and I think he's going to be the next big thing in country music. I really do. And then Teddy Swims, he was direct support for the show. Um, great voice. I don't know that I would see him again, only because it's not quite my style of music, really. But he's got some love songs that'll bring you to your knees, man. And like, I bet his story is freaking crazy. I would love to pick his brain a little bit. Um, and then obviously, TR Thomas Rhett, headlining a hell of a show. Absolutely fantastic. It was hot as shit. I stupidly wore jeans and boots because I'm a moron. Um, and my legs still hurt. I know I sound like a big bitch, but it was brutal. It was brutal. I mean, you're standing up there for all that time, drinking. It happens. But anyway, we'll be back next week for another episode. I don't know who's gonna be next week. I got a lot of backlog, so we'll figure out somebody. And until then, we'll talk to you later, guys. Have a great week. Be good to each other. Um, Cheers.